Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Difficult Childhood. My name is Falon, and as you can see today, I am not joined by my co host, Jason. It is just me today, flying solo in my Christmas pajamas. And I hope you are all having a very Merry Christmas Eve. And if you are fortunate enough to not work today, like I am, I hope you also can spend the day in your pajamas because it's lovely and festive, and I'm enjoying it very much. Today, I wanted to make a quick video about a subject that I have been asked to address many, many times, really since the show began over a year ago. And that is the subject of how I became a Christian after I left the JW organization. And I do like to say that I became a Christian rather than I remained a Christian because I feel like the organization presents a skewed picture of who Jesus is. And if you're not able to fully know him for who he is, it's hard to apply the terminology Christian in the proper context. So, yes, I say that I became a Christian. And it was not an immediate process. It wasn't like I quit going to meetings and left the organization and then immediately turned around and said, "No, I'm a Christian." It doesn't work that way. At least it didn't for me. Maybe you have a different experience. Um, when I quit going to meetings, I had I had already known that it wasn't the truth for some time, but to preserve the relationship with my parents and at the time one of my siblings, I continued to go, even though I did not believe the doctrine that they were presenting. I wasn't willing to sacrifice that relationship just to make myself happy. I thought I could do it all. But that at that same time, I had remarried and I was being pulled in a lot of different directions, not by my husband, and not related to faith, but I was just starting a new life as a wife and starting a new career, and it's just a lot of things going on. Now, I've heard a lot of former witnesses say that when they quit going, that they were harassed by elders or peppered with questions about why they weren't going in service, why they weren't attending meetings, things like that. Thankfully, that was not my experience. The only people that really ever battered me with questions were my parents, my mom and dad. And they did. They wanted answers about why I wasn't going regularly to the meetings, why I wasn't going door to door. But no matter what answer I gave them, it was not sufficient. And I was honest. I said, I don't think this is the truth. The doctrine that they're presenting does not ring true for me. But that answer was not good enough. So that led to a lot of conflict. And it really strained on that relationship. And at that time, that was when my own mental and emotional health was at its most fragile point because I was trying to make everyone happy. And you just can't live that way long term. You just can't do it. It's not sustainable. So eventually I just stopped going. And it was freeing in a way because I now had the time and the energy to devote to other subjects that I was interested in, other things I was interested in doing. I could ask questions that I previously wasn't allowed to ask about whatever topic. So there definitely was a sense of freedom, but after a while it didn't really feel free. So I took a couple of years to kind of just decompress, try to unpack all that I had been through growing up the way that we did. Um, and thankfully, my amazing husband never pressured me in about anything related to faith or belief or church or the Bible or anything. He never put any pressure on me, and I'm so thankful for that too. But after a couple of years, I did start to be interested in why why people choose faith. And I don't mean why do they choose a specific um, denomination, or why is one person a Hindu and why is one person a Baptist. I mean, what is it about us as humans that draws us to a belief system, or a faith? Um, and the best answer that I can give based on what I know now is that it's just part of us. I believe that we're just wired to want to connect to the one who created us. But it took me a long time to understand that. So after a few years, my husband had always just left the door open that if I ever did want to go with him to church, that of course I was welcome to. And after a few years, I decided, sure, I'll go. I'll, give it a whirl. Mostly just to keep him company. Um, but also because I was curious, how do other churches believe, or what are their services like? Obviously I'd never, other than a wedding ceremony at a Catholic church, I had never been to another church, of course not. So I decided to go and just check it out. So we went to one church, and it was lovely. It was just a lovely little, faith service, community service. They, of course, read from the Bible and sang songs, and it was just lovely. It was just like what you'd see on Andy Griffith, and everyone was super nice. And so, I clapped along and read the scriptures, and it was lovely. But I didn't feel anything. There was nothing like being stirred within me. So when it was over, my husband said, "What did you think?" And I said, "Oh, it was fine. I don't know that I'm interested in going back, but it was fine. It was a fine experience." And he said, of course, you're a grown adult. You do what you want." And he said, "But if you ever, before you go back again, if you ever decide to go back again," he said, "the only thing I would encourage you to do is to start reading the Bible, but not the JW Bible." He said, "I think maybe you should start reading the King James Version and just see if you feel the same way." And I thought, okay. So he was so sweet. He bought me a King James Bible because I did not even own one. So I thought, all right, I'm gonna give it a whirl. So I opened her up to Genesis and started reading. And of course, that was a little heavy. So then I thought, I'm gonna skip ahead to the Gospels, to the Christian Greek scriptures. So I skipped ahead and started at Matthew. And even though they were accounts that I, of course, had read before, you'd be surprised how different the Jehovah's Witness Bible is. Even little things, wording changes, little omissions that you wouldn't necessarily think mattered, or as a witness I didn't think mattered, they do matter, because it paints a different picture of who Jesus is. It doesn't portray him in the fullness of any type of deity or God position. So I was surprised how different it made me view him. So I kept reading, and the more I read, I just felt like, oh, this just feels different. And the more I decided, okay, like I'm gonna really kind of like dig into the person of Jesus and who he is. The more I looked for him, the more easily he was found to me. So I still wasn't going to church with him regularly or anything like that. And I still wasn't ready to say, like, I'm ready to be saved, because old witness programming was, still deep, deep within me. So for a year or so, I just read the Bible and, really tried to process all of that. And then something happened. Something good and bad happened. In 2016, we were involved in a very, very serious motorcycle accident. And I was in critical condition. And so I was sent to a different hospital other than my local hospital where the accident occurred. And my husband, thankfully, was injured. He was injured, but not as severely. So he was sent somewhere else. So um, before I tell you this story about the moment, like the actual moment that I chose Jesus, I want to ask you, just like in your mind, think of the person that you love the most in this world, the human that you love the absolute most. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your children, maybe it's a parent. But just think of that person and think of the way that you feel when they're in a room. I always say that, like, my husband and I, we were very connected. And there's lots of times I can walk into a crowded room of people and I can tell, I don't know how, but like I can tell whether or not my husband's in that room, even though I can't see him. Like I can just tell if he's there or not. Or think of that person that you love the most. If they walk up behind you and they put their hand on your shoulder, or you can hear them like breathing behind you, you know that it's them even without turning around. You feel their presence. You know their identity through their presence. So I want you to just kind of keep that idea like in the back of your mind. So I had been transported to a different hospital and I had not seen my husband in about a week. He was sent home by our little podunk backwoods hospital to await a surgery date. So both his and mine, our left legs were crushed in the accident. A driver who was texting ran a red light and hit us broadside on our motorcycle. And also PSA, don't text and drive. So I called him and asked if he had. I called him from my hospital. I called him at home and asked if he had been given a date for his surgery. And he said it would be another 10 days before he could even get um, like a consultation date. And I'm starting to panic because I know his leg is crushed. And he said they were not providing him with any home health care. No one was coming to change bandages. Like the care he was being given by our local hospital was not adequate. And I started to panic. And I told him, I said, you can't wait for our local hospital to help you. Like, we're going to have to get you somewhere else. My leg had already been surgically repaired. I was in more of like a rehabilitation center, help physical therapy type place. He had not even surgically been addressed. And now it had been a full week since the crash. So I started to panic and I said, I said, I'm going to have to reach out to like Duke University, University of Virginia Trauma. Like, we can't wait for our little, Mayberry hospital to help you because they're not going to. And for whatever reason, he was very resistant to that idea. Of course, it was just fear, fear of going somewhere else. He has lived in the same place his whole life. He's a very small town man. And I guess he was just afraid. And plus, we'd been separated for over a week. And so you just kind of feel out of sorts when you don't have your partner with you. So he said, no, I don't want to go anywhere else. And I started to get, upset and emotional. And I said, you have to. Like, you're going to lose your leg if we don't intervene. And he said, no, I feel like, they know what they're doing. It'll work out, this and that. And he said, he said, God can guide the hands of the local doctors just like he can guide the hands of a doctor at Duke University. And of course, that made me mad. Um, so I was really upset. We hung up the phone, and I just felt so helpless and overwhelmed. And I needed, I needed a miracle. That's what people say. I needed a miracle, but that's how I felt. And I had tried reasoning with him. I had tried, uh, using logic. I had tried using emotion, and I felt like none of it was getting through. So I just felt like I was at my wit's end, and I was so worried that he was going to lose his leg. And I was in this very large hospital room. It was like a double room, but I was the only person in there. And when I had seen people at other churches pray, I noticed a lot of them, like when they pray or when they worship, like they raise their hands to the Lord. And I always thought that was a very peculiar, because in Jehovah's Witness culture, there's nothing like that. You don't really express any emotion like during your worship, maybe like through song, but it's definitely like a very controlled, more public library type environment. So I always thought that was like weird to me, but I just felt like I didn't know what else to do. Like who do you turn to when you don't have any other options? So I had been praying the way that you're taught to pray as a Jehovah's Witness, and I was getting nowhere. I've been praying that way, since the crash happened. So after I hung up the phone with him, and I just felt defeated and so fear filled, and I just thought, what have I got to lose? So I started praying, and I was looking upward, and I had my hands up in prayer, and I get emotional even like thinking back about that, because it was such a scary moment. But oh Lord, sorry. Um, but I was praying, and I said, um, I've tried to do it my way, and I can't. I need help. And I said, if I'm supposed to be praying a different way, then hear me now. And I said, if I'm meant to find you, like, let me find you in this moment. I said, because I need help, and I need it right now, not in the great by and by, not in the great hereafter. I need help, and I need it right now. And in that moment, and this is why I asked you to think about the person that you love most earlier, and about what their presence feels like. In that moment, that hospital room, I'm so sorry. That hospital room was filled with Jesus. And that's the only way I can express it. Just in an instant, he was there. And that feeling that I was describing earlier about how even if you can't see that person, when they're behind you, if you feel their hand on your shoulder, if you feel your spouse like breathing on your neck, or in your ear, that it's them. You don't have to turn around. You feel them. You know it's them. That's how it felt. And I just started to weep, and I just heard him say, like, within me, like, I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you. And 2 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was my husband. And he said, I don't know why, but I changed my mind. And I think you were right. I think we do need to get out of this state and get to a hospital that can save me. And we did. And I couldn't, we hung up, and I couldn't move. My leg was in like this big brace and a splint. I couldn't walk. I couldn't put any weight on it or anything like that. But if I could have, I would have got down on my knees, because I don't know that in all the years that I prayed as a witness, I don't know that I ever had a specific prayer answered. And what I mean is, you pray for things like, let my parents make the mortgage payment this month, give me strength, just very generic requests. But I don't know that I ever poured out my heart to God with like a pleading request, and had it answered like that. And it just shook me. And I said, afterwards in prayer, I said, this this obviously I've been doing it wrong. So if I'm meant to leave it in your hands, then I do. If you're meant to lead the way in my life, then I'm ready, you know. Um, and I believe that was the moment that I got saved. And it definitely was not in the way that I expected. And you hear all these um, beautiful like testimonies. Everybody's experience is different, but that was mine. I was hooked up to all kinds of monitors. They wanted to make sure I wasn't getting like blood clots in that leg, and um, I was all by myself. But it was so powerful and so just mind blowing. But he was there. He showed up when I called out for him. He was there. So after that, thankfully, my husband did not lose his leg. We both have titanium legs on the left side, um, but we are able to walk and we're healthy, and we recovered extraordinarily well, and I'm very thankful for that. But after that, I felt like I had made a breakthrough, and my mental health and my emotional health started to improve. The more I sought him, and things started to get better, and I just felt lighter. I just felt more, that freedom finally felt free. And we eventually did find a church that we started to attend regularly, and that has helped me so much to see him in a different light, to see him in the role that he is truly appointed to. And he Jesus is readily available to anybody that wants um, to know him for who he truly is. And all you have to do is just start, just open the Bible, not the JW Bible. Find you a real Bible and start to read it. And ask someone for help if you want. Um, it's not the oppression. It's not the oppressive format that the witnesses have. It's so light and it's so freeing, and the more you know about him, the more you'll wanna know about him. And, this time of year, the Christmas time of year, like I said, my mind is definitely on him more. And, even yesterday, we were listening to, a friend of ours sing, um, "O Holy Night," and in the lyrics, one of the verses, it says, "His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Uh, chains he shall break, and in his name all oppression shall cease." So if you feel the oppressive weight of the JW organization, or maybe you just feel the oppressive weight of not having the peace on the outside, or you feel like you're still living under this shadow of dissatisfaction with your life, if that freedom doesn't feel free, if your happiness doesn't feel like joy, um, he breaks all that away. One of my favorite scriptures is from Galatians chapter 5, verse 1. It says, "It's for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm and do not let yourself be burdened again by the yoke of slavery." So if you feel like you escaped Watchtower and you still feel like you're living as a slave spiritually, just know that Jesus breaks that away. And he's just so much more than what you're led to believe. And I'm so 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 thankful, because my life changed dramatically, and I love my life. I'm I I can't really explain it. Like, I find him everywhere. I find him in my relationships with other people. He shows up in my relationship with my husband, in my finances, in my career. Like, he just never stops giving and supporting those who are seeking him, and doing their best to know him and live in harmony with him. And it's so refreshing. And I like I said, I could talk about it forever. But I'll just wrap it up there. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, and I hope this answers questions about how I came to call myself a Christian, and what a wonderful experience that was. And if you're interested, I hope that that's an experience that eventually you'll come to share. If you have questions, of course, feel free to email me. The email address is in the information box below. And I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season, a very blessed Christmas 2024. And we will see you in the new year. Bye, guys.
Grew up in shadows, now I'm free. Dysfunction behind me, hope inside.